Hey there, guys. So, I want to thank you for taking the time to check out today's video where I'm going to be continuing to go over a little bit of my collection and what I have again related to, a lot of really kind of what I grew up around and what kind of helped me with my self-discovery journey. And what I want to go over today and really touch on is a musician that has really stuck with me. And when I was going through a lot of very difficult times, she was one that I connected with the most. I used to listen to her albums all the time. And what I want to go over is Lady Gaga. So when I was younger, I there was something that sort of resonated with me and her music itself. And I guess a lot of the reasons was that she pushed boundaries in a lot of ways and really, of course, brought a lot of emphasis on the gay community through her music. And she, again, with her albums, especially Born This Way, which I'll discuss as we go further in this video, really gave me a sense of calm and a sense of peace throughout my journey because, as I've mentioned, there's been a wide range of things that I've been through, and especially when I was in my younger years. So what I want to go over is a few of her albums that I have. So if you're not aware, of course, I collect a lot of stuff. I have a ton of CDs here. I do have, some TV show stuff like South Park, and then I do have a bunch of CDs that I would like to sort of, discuss, and then I do like The Simpsons too. um, and I've got Chaperone here, but this is, all CD, and then, my TV show stuff here, and I've got other stuff that I could share as well. And then, of course, I have my books and some of my movies here as well. But what I want to go over specifically is, of course, Lady Gaga. So, whenever I was younger, I had a friend, and well, I shouldn't say had because she's still my friend, but I remember that she sort of had a lot of influence on me when it came to, really appreciating music and appreciating a wide variety of music, not just, one single artist or one single genre. And I remember many times, at the time when I was in, I'm pretty sure it was middle school when you had like the album The Fame that came out. So I do actually have the first studio album that she has. I've had this for a while. And I had started trying to collect, all of her CDs. But I do remember this fondly, Just Dance, Love Game, all of those. And I actually like a lot of the songs on here that weren't necessarily, as popular. Like Summer Boy was one that I used to listen to over and over again, I remember. And then, of course, Paparazzi has always been my favorite song. Of course, that was a single. But there's a lot of really great songs on here outside of what you would classify as more of a single and more of a radio hit, I guess. But I do have this album. One thing I love about albums, and this is a big thing with me, is that I just love the artwork and sort of the emphasis placed on the artwork and the CD. I just like this physical, stuff because it just feels more tangible outside of just listening to something on your phone or just, in general. There's just something about it that I've always loved. I'm just, that's just how I feel about, physical sort of media in general. But I remember listening to her in middle school. And again, whenever I was in middle school, there was a lot of things going on that I was trying to figure out about myself at that time. Another album too, I remember, of course, being really popular. And I've always loved this album cover too. I used to have it in my high school binder. And then I think I mentioned this before, that I had the Alejandro cover in my high school binder as well. But this is another great album. All of the songs on here are really good. There's not one that's not. They're all worth listening to. Even the ones, again, that's not necessarily considered singles, like "So Happy I Could Die" and "Teeth." I really like all of the songs on this one. And again, one thing I remember when I was younger and listening to her was the music videos. The music videos were so unique at that time. And I still think to this day, a lot of her videos really stand out in a lot of ways because they seem much more theatrical in a lot of ways than some of your other artists in music. So this was another one that I really loved. Again, like I've mentioned with a lot of albums and CDs, I do like the artwork that they put in it and how they put a lot of emphasis on the CD itself. This was another thing that I had in high school, was the Heartbeat headphones. I used to have those. I remember it was the same ones that's shown, that silver one that I used to have. But again, this is a really good album. And it just kind of, another thing too is it takes you back to simpler times when you have CDs. It's much different than, everything else now. But the next thing, or the next album, I should say, that I do want to mention is this was probably the first CD that I got, and I remember getting it at Walmart. I had to have been, I think I was in high school, I'm pretty sure, when this one came out, because I think it was 2011. Yeah, it was 2011 that this one came out. And this was one of the first CDs I actually bought, and when I was sort of, getting a little bit into collecting. Of course, I wasn't really earning money at that time, but I remember, I think my mom had let me get this CD. And this is still the same CD that I've had for a long time, since 2011 at this point. But this CD, like, I could easily go back and listen to it over and over and over again. And it's all of the songs, and it's got so many songs on this particular album, because this one's actually the deluxe edition of the Born This Way album. And I remember listening to all of these songs like crazy. This is an album, like, I could go back to and listen to it and still remember a lot of the lyrics that are in a lot of the songs on this particular album. And there's not really a song on here, in my opinion, that is not good. In other words, even again, the ones that are not necessarily singles, like Heavy Metal Lover, Bad Kids, all of those, even those songs, I think one of my favorite songs on here is actually Bad Kids, because that song just resonates. And I think, too, this album in itself really connected with me at that time. Again, this was 2011. So I was in high school. This was well past middle school. And, you know, I just remember listening to this all the time because I had it on my iPod, I remember, at the time. And I used to listen to it when I was on the bus going to school. And if you've not seen pictures, I had the Born This Way poster in my room. And then I also had the, you call it the bracelet, the Born This Way bracelet I had too. And then I also used to have another thing too that I forgot to mention with the Fame Monsters. I used to have the actual, like, the Fame Monster Ball concert. I'm pretty sure the DVD for that, I'm pretty sure I have it somewhere, and I haven't found it yet. There's been a lot of stuff that I've found here, at my parents' house. But again, this was one CD that I think got me through a lot of times. I think it really, again, with the time and, what I was going through at that time, and still, again, my life has been just a complete process of, understanding things and really trying to figure out the next steps forward. And I think that's for everybody. Everybody's, or nobody is really has everything figured out. Like it's a constant sort of, progression on figuring everything out. And again, I remember when I went back and listened to this CD not too long ago, like a month or so ago, and I just remember I could almost sing pretty much all the lyrics, even though I've not heard the album in a long time. At that time, I could pretty much remember every lyric. So, again, this is just another one. I love the style of this album too. It's really just got like a trippy sort of style. Again, that's one aesthetic that I like with a lot of stuff is the really bizarre sort of, alien like sort of aesthetic. I just like that. And I feel like that's what this, what a lot of it this album is really that alien like, sort of style. And I think it makes sense because when you think about what the album is really, talking about, again, it is very much a gay album, like straight up a gay album, because of so much of the themes that overarching themes that are in the album. And it's just because I think what kind of resonates with the alien like style of the, a lot of the aesthetic of the album and the themes, I think is kind of connecting where a lot of people, kind of see us, meaning anybody who's LGBTQ, as sort of alien and outside of what is considered quote unquote the norm. And that's kind of the way that I interpret a lot of the overarching sort of themes, and there's a lot of religious themes, of course, in the album. And that has a connection with a lot of, gay people as well, with a lot of their experiences. And so just a lot of the, overarching themes with everything kind of being alien, and sort of, again, the religious themes that come up, in the album. It just really connects. It really connected with me when I listened to it. Again, I listened to all of the songs, and there's at least 15 or more songs on here. So yeah, this is definitely my favorite album, probably out of all of the albums. So I do have these. Some of these are a little bit newer, and then some of these are somewhat older. Um, I did also have this, which is the remix to the Born This Way album. There's a lot of good remixes on here. And this is pretty much like almost, it's just a remix album. There's nothing too crazy here. I do like the cover here. Again, the same style there. And then the next one that I remember I got was the Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga album. I had originally forgot that I had purchased this a while back, and I've had this a while. And again, I just love how CDs are. I love just all of that. It's just nice to have tangible stuff. Um, Another album that I remember listening to quite a bit too, and this was after I had graduated high school. I remember when Artpop came out. And this was one, again, a really good album. Really solid album. And just a really trippy, trippy artwork design. So, again, and I like see kind of the holofoil and a really, really cool just inside cover and CD. But I do remember, I'm pretty sure this one came out around 2012, 2013. I don't see the date on here, but I'm pretty sure it was around that time because I remember it was around after I graduated high school. And I was excited for this because it had been a little bit since she had, because this was after Born This Way. But this is another good album. I mean, there's almost no song on here, again, that I can think that's just bad. All of the songs are really good. And again, another one that I like. A lot of times I like the actual songs that aren't considered singles most of the time, because I think Fashion was one that I like the most on here. Um, you know, Do What You Want, which was a single, and then of course Pause. But I think Fashion is probably my favorite one, and Donatella was another good one. These two are actually new, so I kind of got back into collecting CDs here recently too. So I was kind of catching up on a lot of my CDs. This was one I remember I'd first listened to, or the album itself, which I didn't have the CD at the time, but I remember first listening to it when I was in LA. And again, when I love the style, this cover here, and it's pretty simple inside, but I really just like sort of this style here. Again, it kind of has that alien sort of style. And the songs on here too are really good. I think my favorite one on here is Alice, because I always liked Alice in Wonderland. So Alice is probably my favorite song. It's really catchy. It seems like a single, but I'm pretty sure it was never a single that I can think of. But such a good album too, very dancey. Much like all of her other, albums, but it's got a very unique style to it. And one thing I think is interesting with Lady Gaga is her music does have a specific style. Like, I was listening to, a lot of the songs from like her new album Mayhem, and I kept thinking I could almost her music has just that distinct style. It's not that it sounds, like, it's not that all the music sounds the same, but it's got a similar sort of feel and a vibe to it. Like, I felt like some of the songs on Mayhem could have been like on Born This Way. Like, it kind of has very, similar just sounds, I guess. Not to say it sounds the same, it's just it got a unique sound. Like, when you hear a Lady Gaga song, it does have that specific type of sound, and you can tell it's one of her songs. I guess it's like a signature. I don't know how to describe it, but every time I listen to her songs, the more I listen to them, like it just has that style. But again, another good one. And then of course I just mentioned Mayhem, which I had just recently really started listening to, and this really good album, really good. I love the style in this. I love this, just really cool. And it's crazy too that it's like 2026 at this point, and you still get like CDs that have a lot of these graphics. It's not plain. It's still, kind of got a style to it, because a lot of times, usually when you would buy a lot of new physical media, it usually kind of just looks very plain. And I just think it's interesting that they still put a lot of love into CDs themselves, and just the artwork. It does have a style, and they still put like little kind of promo stickers on the CDs too, which is really cool. So if you're interested in getting CDs, they still make them, and a lot of them, again, is almost like the old school CDs, and where they're very stylish in a lot of ways. But again, this is a really good album. The songs, of course, that I like on here the most is Abracadabra. Perfect Celebrity is really good. Garden of Eden, again, a lot of good songs. I mean, I still need to really take time to listen to this, a few more times. But this really good album, really solid album, and all of hers are. Not really one that's not good. Um, But why I wanted to discuss a lot of her music is that, again, when I was going through a lot of the times I was going through when I was younger, her music resonated with me in a way and really helped me in a lot of different tough times that I was going through. And I just remember, you know, I remember when I was on the bus going to school one morning, and I just remember writing "Born This Way" on, like, on the window when it's like, kind of foggy and everything. And I just remember writing that down, and I still remember it. Like, there's just little moments I remember. I used to have a lot of her shirts. If you've seen pictures of me when I was younger, I used to have a lot of the Lady Gaga t-shirts. I'd always wanted to go to her concert, and I remember I almost got to go to the Born This Way. I think it was Born This Way ball. I almost got to go to that one, but there was sort of some scheduling issues I remember at that time, and so I wasn't able to actually go. Um, but again, if you've not listened to her, which I'm sure everybody has at this point, I just and if you're interested in getting into purchasing CDs, they do have all of her CDs that you can purchase. But one thing I think it's just a lot of her stuff really just resonated with me a lot. I do have some other artists that I would like to share that I listened to a lot when I was younger. Madonna was another one that I would like to show. I do have pretty much all of her CDs. I do also have Mariah Carey that I used to listen to a lot when I was younger. Again, my friend, she really got me into a lot of music. But thank you guys for watching. I really hope that you found this pretty interesting and sort of give you a little bit of thought. But really, again, appreciate the music and sort of those memories, that you get from a lot of, all this stuff. Like, keep that, kind of in your heart. Like, it's like a lot of the movies too that I have. There's like a connection with them. And the same with video games. Video games is another thing I love. But it's stuff, a lot of stuff I think helps really get us through tough times, and it shapes us more as a person. That's what I think that's why I'd always resonated, a lot with art, and, just because you can really sort of show what you're going through, and you can really, portray it in a unique way to where people can understand it, from your perspective. And I think that's what's interesting about art, music, movies, video games. And so, again, I would love to share more with you guys. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.